Man, I was the first one into this village. We got opened up on. It was an avalanche of gunfire. You know, I got hit. I never will forget moving from one position to the next. Fell forward and rolled over. My leg was just hanging by a 45-degree angle, only by an inch of flesh.
You know what? Some people get stuck in traffic and they think they have a bad day.
Whenever I was in Afghanistan and I'd get on that chopper and those wheels would come off the ground, I didn't know if I was going to be alive when they landed. Think about that.
Yeah.
Now that's
perspective.
That's living. That's when you look at that sunset right there and you say, that is God's miracle.
I know we always love hearing these stories. People can look at their own life like, man, why am I complaining?
So I have a logistics company that is service disabled veteran owned, and we're going to hire as many vets as we can, and then and then live to give, which is every bottle you buy, we give half the profits to veteran and first responder charity.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Life to the Max podcast with your hosts, Janna Breslin and Evan DeMarco. So we just interviewed Mo. We're here in Texas, and you guys are going to get to see a lot about Mo as the Life to the Max adventure retreats progress throughout the year. When I first started talking to Mo about coming to Texas, he's like, you got to interview my buddy. I'm like, all right, what's your buddy's name? He's like, John Wayne, born on the 4th of July. And I'm like, no, seriously, who are you talking about?
Sorry,
like,
I'm not taller.
He's like, yeah. He's like, I've got this guy, John Wayne Walding, born on the 4th of July. You just got to listen to his story. So we started doing some research, and we heard a little bit about his story, and I'm like, we absolutely have to interview this guy. So I want to, I am proud to introduce John Wayne Walding to the Life to the Max podcast.
Welcome.
Thank y'all for having me. Again, it always seems like I'm a lot cooler than I really am when you interview me, right?
No, you know what? Actually, we've just spent the last couple hours out here is it Ennis or Enos?
Ennis.
Ennis, Texas. Yeah. Doing something that I'm assuming a lot of people in Ennis, Texas do, and that's what you've done and made a career out of, and that's shooting really big guns and quite frankly, blowing some shit up.
Yeah, just say ready, and then I'll tell you to send it.
Okay.
Ready?
Let me see. Yeah, I'm ready.
Send it.
Bingo!
There you go! Look at that, see? That's not so bad, is it?
Bro.
Mail her this 0. So kind of favor to the right of the target because you feel this wind.
Mm-hmm.
So just, I don't know, a few inches to the right, but aim dead center, and then fire when ready. Boom! Hey, love it! There you go. Yeah. A lot of freedom out here on this range, yeah.
There's a lot of freedom. Can you give us, there's so much to unpack with you, but I really would love to hear your backstory, and then we're going to fill in the blanks because you are absolutely one of the most humble guys that I've met, and not a big self-promoter, but we absolutely have to be promoting you.
Well, I always say that, John Wayne, he did the movie The Green Berets. I don't know if you are familiar with that movie. It's one of the big movies in the mid-'60s. Well, me being a Green Beret, I've done a lot of push-ups for that guy named John Wayne. Like, who do you think you are, John Wayne? Well, yeah, right?
Well, actually.
Yeah. And with me, I don't, what Ron White say, I have the right to remain silent, but not the ability. Well, I always talk, and my mouth got me into doing a lot of push-ups. But no, I'm very, very blessed to be, I won the lottery by being born in America, right? The best country that's ever existed on this planet in existence. And so with that military background of what makes us great, I joined the military pretty much right out of high school. I took 2 years off to see myself and or run out of money and say, man, I need a real job.
Here we go.
And joined the Army right before the towers fell, actually. I was in basic training September 11, 2001. And I never will forget us doing hand-to-hand combat and having to go into this big auditorium, and they told us we were under terrorist attack.
Wow.
At first I thought it was a joke, right? I thought it was part of the basic training where we're going to war, man. Right. It was a drill, and no, that's really what happened, and which ultimately changed my life, because before, people forget that before then, kind of the reason why people join the military was, well, we'll get college money, right? We'll join for a few years, get a college plan. I'm like, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And God had a different plan, and found myself in Iraq about a year later, and doing the initial invasion in 2003, and I did that with my brothers and sisters during that time, and came back, and that's when I wanted to actually be the best that I could be, which with being named John Wayne, born on the 4th of July, I'm really not from a military family. I'm a Texan. I'm half Mexican, and my dad was a roughneck. So I love tacos and drilling oil. That's kind of how shooting guns. And so I didn't know much about the military, but after going to combat and really seeing those that lay down their life and limbs to protect this country, that's when I was all in, and that's when I wanted to become a Green Beret. And I always say, we're not a competition with SEALs, but they have Hell Week, we have Hell Month, right? So if it was, we win. But do we have a little thing called selection? You can't just raise your hand and say, I want to go to Special Forces school.
Right.
You go to a selection process, and if you're standing at the end of that, they choose who gets to go to Special Forces qualification course. And to put it in perspective, I was one of about 400 that started, and less than 100 were even finished at day 25, and about half of those were selected. And after about 2 years, about half of those actually got to don the coveted Green Beret and actually go to a Special Forces unit. Wow. and operate. So that's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, and one of the most fulfilling moments I ever did, had was donning that Green Beret, and obviously, when you go through that tip of the spear school, you go to work. And that's what we did. We went to Afghanistan. I graduated in August, and I was in Afghanistan in October.
Wow.
And the job of a Green Beret, if you don't know, no, it's not like a Navy SEAL. We're totally different, right? And in fact, my propaganda, if you want to call it that, but the cool guy hat is Special Operations. Right, so Special Forces is actual U.S. Army Green Berets. We're the only true Special Forces. Special Operations is where you have the Navy SEALs, the Army Rangers, the Marine Recons. I think they're MARSOC now, Marine Raiders, Air Force Combat Controller, Pararescue, and then you have the Army Green Berets, right? That's, the Special Operations.
The Spec Ops community.
Spec Ops community, right? And the majority, to almost 60% of all those missions that are executed underneath Spec Ops, are done by U.S. Army Special Forces Green Berets. So we go the most, we die the most, we get shot the most. The Green Beret Foundation has about 2 million. The Navy SEAL Foundation has 22. Why? We don't write books, we don't do movies, we fight the war. That's kind of the humbleness is drilled into us, is to keep your mouth shut and let your at work ethic be that quiet professional. That's what our motto is, De oppresso liber means to liberate the oppressed, but we are the quiet professionals. And after 2 years of going through there, I found myself in Afghanistan, and April 6, 2008 is a day, that will forever be a day that changed my life. That's the day I lost my leg. And I always say I didn't lose it, right? I knew where it was, it just didn't work anymore, right? I got my leg, Sergeant, I just can't use it, But it was a battle to where 15 Americans, special operators, and along with 60 Afghani counterparts. Oh, so yeah, I forgot I'm sitting there squirreling, right? The job of a Green Beret is to teach them to die for their country rather than us doing it. So instead of sending 100 Americans to go get this bad guy, why don't we send 15 to train 1,000 and let them fight for themselves? So that's what our core mission is.
Is that kind of the give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him forever?
Absolutely. That's when John F. Kennedy donned the Green Beret in the 60s. That's what our job was then, was to go to Vietnam and to help them fight for themselves, fight communism, through the Viet Cong and all of that. And that is obviously carried on through Bosnia, carried on through all of the wars that we've had up until Afghanistan. And we were with the Afghani National Army's commando unit, the commandos. And they trained with us. They had a selection process just like we did. They had a schoolhouse just like we did. And when they graduate, they were attached to a Special Forces unit. And we had the first commandos, which is the first Afghani 201 Commando Kandak. And we fought next to them, had great rapport with these people. They were absolutely, 100% pipe hitters, loved their country, loved, to the extent that they did. Granted, it is Afghanistan, so you can't go into a or an American mindset when going into Afghanistan. It's just totally different. It really is. But for what they had, they were great war fighters. And to the fact that we're at the end of the missions, we were there for about 7 months at this time whenever Shok Valley happened. They would want to go to a house before us because they really did, care that much about us, and we really did have, rapport with them. And that's what we were doing on April 6th. Is we had about 60 Afghani commandos along with, 15 of us. I was Assault Team 1 leader. So we had myself, another SF guy, his name was David, and then we had an interpreter with about 9 Afghani commandos. So we had that Assault Team 1, Assault Team 2 was the same thing, some SF guys, and then we had your command and control, which obviously would be your team leader, the officers that would be the battlefield commander that would talk to, those that are up higher, say, hey, this is what we got, we're moving here, and kind of control the battlefield as it moves in real time. We had some other units, but to make a long story short, we were scaling a cliff, and I always say before we even got there, we actually had to jump out of the helicopter. Whenever, what Mike Tyson say, every plan, is great till you get punched in the mouth, right? Well, that's what happened with us.
No battle survives the first shot concept.
Yeah, amen. And I never will forget, green light go, and we're going to run out of the back of these Chinooks, and we're not even on the ground. Well, the riverbed was so rocky that we couldn't even land. We had to jump out the back of this thing, and we thought we were going to, probably have, 10 to 20% of our element injured for just twisted knees and the sprained neck. Because remember, we got body armor on, our helmets, and we're 60 pounds heavier than what we normally.
How far was that jump?
It's a 10 to 15, so basically off a roof, right? Something like that.
It's pretty substantial.
Yeah.
Ow.
Tell me.
Yeah. Especially on
a rock, by the way.
rocks, right? Yeah.
And we started climbing the mountain. Nobody was injured. And it was literally climbing up goat paths, right? And so there was a little bit of exertion from there, and man, I was the first one into this village. We're about 40 yards from, Assault Team 1 until that first building, and we got opened up on. And I say with that, meaning it was an avalanche of gunfire. And, not to make myself sound cool or whatever it is, that's just a reality.
Yeah.
And put it into perspective, I've been talking for 5 minutes already, 10 minutes, and within that time, we already had our interpreter, CK, he got shot in the throat, died on impact.
Oh my gosh.
Dylan Bear was shot in the hip. Initial assessment of him was 20 minutes to live. So we knew that we weren't going to suppress the enemy, get off the mountain, call a medevac bird, get there, put him on there, like there's no way that was happening, so Dylan's dead. Right, and within another 5 minutes, we had Luis Morales got shot twice in his leg, and I never will forget him saying, John, come get me, brother. You don't just say that on the radio. You use etiquette. Bravo 1, this is Echo 1. Bravo 2, this is Echo 3, or Charlie 1, or whatever your call sign. So I'm like, man, he must be busted up pretty bad. And this is right in the beginning of this firefight. And at that point, with 2 injured, we had to come down from our location and really help them, right? And we knew we weren't going to get everyone up this mountain that was hard enough to get, able-bodied working, commandos and Green Berets up there. Now we got 2 injured and 1 dead. We need to come down and help them, and that's what we did. We pretty much initiated Operation Human Shield, where we were the bullet catchers, while the medic Ron kept both Dylan and Luis alive.
Wow.
And it worked great for a while, for about 2 hours. So now we're about 3 into this firefight, and that's whenever I got hit. I never will forget moving from one position to the next. And I felt this pain, and I fell forward and rolled over. My leg was just hanging by a 45-degree angle, only by an inch of flesh. And
I've got to ask the question, what goes through your mind when you see that?
Well, for me, ow, let's not, John Wayne Green Beret, but it hurt. It hurt bad. I screamed, I cried, I did every normal thing. I didn't grab my Green Beret and rub it and tell my sergeant I didn't have time to bleed. I fought the pain. That was probably the first 5 minutes of me trying to, get in front of this debilitating injury. Oh, by the way, I'm bleeding to death right now, right? Because literally it was hanging by an inch of flesh. And so that was the first thing that I thought, and after getting, Dave helped me with my tourniquet, get my tourniquet on and everything. The second thing I thought was like, Spielberg got it right, because it looked just like the movies. On a, thriller movie where somebody gets their head chopped off or whatever, blood just squirts right out. That's exactly what it looks like. So I was looking at myself. I'm like, I'm a Saw 5 extra, and so which was good because that's how I could tell how tight I needed to tie the tourniquet. And then the next, you just go to work, which is what we all do, right? You have a threat, eliminate the threat, get a different vantage point. If you can't eliminate a threat, help somebody that can, find cover, help somebody that's wounded. That's just what we do. Is you don't have this philosophical thought, hey, I'm getting shot at, I might die right now. That doesn't really happen. You just go to work, and which worked for a while. And then I saw my team sergeant Scott get shot from me to you. Scott was, in my mind, the coolest guy on the planet, right? So he was the team sergeant that had been in SF for 15 years, killed more people in cancer, Chuck Norris wears Scott Ford underwear. Like, that's how cool he was in my mind, right? And I'm looking to him to get us out of there, and I see him get shot, right in the chest and just drop to his knee, 5 feet from me. And thank God it worked, right? The breastplate, the body armor, his breast didn't get shot through it. And he got up, he kept fighting, and, thank God it was working. Unfortunately, within 5 minutes of that, I watched again his left arm just kind of fillet off the back because he got shot right in the shoulder. And that's when I thought we might not make it out of there. And you got me hurt, so somebody's got to help me. You got Dylan hurt, somebody's got to help him. Now you got Luis, and you got Scott. And Ron. And you
only got one medic, right?
And Ron was the only medic, and that's when I thought, I gave it to God, and I said, okay, it's in your hands now. Let's see what you got. And he's a great God, and fortunately, the powers that be saw that as well, and that's when they started opening up pretty much every air asset in theater to our location. So all the helicopters and airplanes really got diverted and started dropping bombs, And when I say bombs, I mean them. Not, yes, we had the gun runs of the Hellfire missiles and all the A-10 Warthog, 30 Mike rounds, but we got 250 round JDAMs, 500,000, and even 2,000 pound JDAMs getting dropped on our head. And again, to put it into perspective, you really don't know what that means, right? Yeah, 2,000 pound, like you just got 2 pound bomb, right? Well, 2,000 pound JDAM, what danger close for that is 1,000 yards or a major terrain feature, right? They were dropping 100 yards on top of our head.
Oh my God.
So imagine that too being 2,000 where we just shot today. And
was there a terrain feature separating you guys?
No. The only thing, it was on top of us, right? So we were going up the mountain, so it was 100 yards up the mountain. And fortunately, the blast went outward, not downward.
Because that could cause a landslide
Well, I was about to say, unfortunately, the gravity's the law. And whenever that big rock of a mountain was getting blown up, we were fighting boulders coming down. In fact, Dylan, his intestines were ruptured because of a boulder falling on him.
Jesus.
And that's how we got off the mountain. We would drop the bomb. That was really the only time that they'd ever stopped shooting. I never, it wasn't the amount of fire that we were receiving. It was just the relentless, just bap, 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 bap. They just kept firing and firing and firing, hour after hour after hour. And remember, there were 4 hours into this firefight. 4 hours, just nonstop, and bombs
at this point
going.
You're going uphill and your leg is dangling.
So at this point, my legs literally, I at one point I grabbed my leg and I literally folded into my groin and held it between my thighs as we got off the mountain. So I carried my leg down the mountain.
Jesus.
Yeah. Wow. And I'm a redneck, so I'm like, well, I got to splint this like a broken, the only way to splint it, is mobilizes that way. And but we would literally lower each other and fall off the 20-foot cliffs to get us down to this base of this mountain, and we would, I never will forget, that was the hardest thing I'd ever done was scooting on my butt, looking at the ledge, and then just falling off the next one and going to the next.
While you're holding your leg.
Wash, rinse, repeat. Yeah, and then we got to the base of the mountain, and called in the first medevac bird, which is medical evacuation, aircraft like the Black Hawk Down, right? UH-60. It's one of those that's, fitted out for medical evac. And, It was in the middle of the wadi, which is a valley. I don't know why you changed continents. A valley is a wadi.
Okay.
So we were in the middle of a wadi, and to get to the middle, though, we had to get drugged through this river, which you're 10,000 feet above sea level. It's April and 10,000 feet in Afghanistan, so it's 30 to 40 degrees. It's basically melted ice at this point, and I thought I was going to die of hypothermia getting drugged through the water, And then, oh yeah, by the way, the first bird gets shot down, or the pilot actually gets shot. We have audio of the pilot saying, I'm hit, I'm going south. And so he flies away, and then we got drugged through the water again to the base of the mountain. And we had to wait for the next bird to come in, which wasn't even a medevac bird, it was just a UH-60 that we had some SF guys on there, and they fell off, and I never will forget the sound of the rounds impacting this thing as we were getting thrown onto there, and we were, got lifted off, and I was like, great, this is awesome, finally made it out of there. While here, beep, 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 we had to do a crash landing because all the damage that aircraft took getting us out of there couldn't make it to the hospital. I was
So
like,
you finally got in one, and then...
Yeah, and then we couldn't even make it there. I was like, thanks, baby Jesus, right? Gunshot, hypothermia, now I'm down in a helicopter crash. Come on now.
Wow.
I mean, you know what? Some people get stuck in traffic and they think they have a bad day.
Oh, yeah. Road rage has nothing against getting shot out of the air, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
After being shot, holding your leg in your lap, and
Right.
then, falling off of cliffs. Like,
So logistically
Shit!
speaking, helicopters, I know they can land pretty much, anywhere, but are they also communicating to you guys as far as, okay, we need you to go to this mountain so we can pick you up there? Like, they're communicating
Yeah,
with you
that's
the whole
what the
time?
Air Force Combat Controller,
Right.
he was with us. That's what his job is, to be, the guy that talks to the aircraft, calling in the bomb strikes. It can be very, very rudimentary and very archaic, meaning I have grenade, I will throw a grenade on said building. When it blows up, they'll see
Land.
smoke, right? And then make bigger smoke, right? If they're going to be a bomb run, or we throw smoke out ourselves, right? Look for red smoke, right? And the kind of what you
Right.
see in the movies.
So you finally get in this helicopter and
Finally get
crash
it.
landing.
Right, we had to
and-
land on it, and everybody's fine. We got another aircraft in. We cross-loaded it, and that's when we flew into to the hospital. And I never, to this day, will forget the look on that. 'Cause let's be real, war is a young man's game, right? I know I got a baby face, but I'm 38 years old. Like, I would not really be in combat at this age. Yes, there are some that are still there, but you can join the military at 17 with the parents' permission, or 18, right? So you have kids that are 19 years old that are, again, the older you are, the more rank you probably get, right? So the ones that are actually in there doing it are, 19 to 22, and so this kid sees, these SF guys look like a Saw 5 extra. His eyes were just like grapefruit, because again, I'm kicking my own ass at this point, right? Like, I've never seen that, yeah. And so we get rolled in, and I get my guy that's, obviously fixated on my leg. Well, my lungs collapse and I can't breathe. And I can't tell you the most helpless feeling that I felt being from me to you, closer than me to you, and you're not helping me breathe, and I can't yell to say I can't breathe. It was incredible.
why did your lungs collapse?
I don't know if it was because of
Blood loss?
the blood loss, elevation change, the morphine, the good morphine
Oh, yeah.
story that I always like to tell is, we have these injectors, right? I live by the creed that I'm dumb, but I know I'm dumb, so it almost makes me smart, right? I know my dumb self will do some dumb stuff, so I ask questions, so I think to myself, you don't know what you're you're kind of messed up, jacked up on Mountain Dew because you got your legs shot off and everything. So I was like, hey, Ron, what side down, on this injector? Well, he's like, purple. Cool. So I went and put it in my leg, and it went into my thumb.
Oh, no.
And so as we're laughing right now, we are laughing on the side of a mountain because I'm throwing my injector at Ron. It's like, you had one job, Ron. One job, and you messed it up. I'm like, when I say I'm going to beat you with my leg, and like, true story, we were laughing like that on the side of a mountain, and cussing my medic. And the last story I'll tell about him is I never will forget dumb, and I was like, it had to have been 30 minutes after me getting shot, and the only person keeping me alive is me, and I'm not qualified, right? I wasn't a medic, and so I was like, Ron, come check me out, right? Airways,
Right.
blood, circulation, all breathing, circulation, that ABCs that, You know, I want somebody smarter than me to say, okay, you're doing this right. And to this day, I'll never forget he was working on Dylan at the time, and he like peeks over Dylan like this, and he gives me a thumbs up. He says, "You're good." And I was like, F you, Ron. I'm like, I'm not good. Like, I know me good, Ron. This is not me.
My leg is in my lap.
Yeah. What the hell do you mean?
I mean, amongst all that chaos, that camaraderie and laughter and humor was probably very therapeutic.
It was. Look, we love each other.
Yeah,
That's,
totally.
you know, you don't become a Green Beret because you like it. You do it because you love it, and you love those who are next to you.
Right.
You know, you may have an a-hole that's on your team, but he's your a-hole, and nobody better call him that.
Yeah.
Right? That's the reality. That's
Yeah.
how it is. And me and Ron didn't see eye to eye.
Yeah.
But I'd fight to the death, and I'd take a bullet for him, absolutely.
sure.
And so yeah, we couldn't, you know. Like and like he was like, whenever we got to the corner, I was bleeding on him, you know. And he's like, "Really, John? You messed up my uniform?" You know, I'm like, "That's what you get," you know. So
I injected morphine into my thumb.
yeah. You know, if you were a better medic, we wouldn't have this problem. You know.
So, Jen, this is crazy, right? So, obviously, you know, you get back, your leg gets amputated, and I don't want to fast forward through this, but there's so much more of your story that I want to get to, and we're going to run out of time, and I think we're probably going to run out of sun at some point.
Oh, sorry.
No, because
it's all
and there's a lot that you can take from the book that was written about this whole battle, and as you said, you know, each Navy SEAL writes a book. You guys get, you know, your whole battle gets one book, but there's so much in that. It sounds like it's, you know, I mean, anybody who wants to know more can just pick that up.
Right.
Obviously, probably there's going to be a movie at this at some point.
Maybe now, and so, you know, to that point, I always talk, you know, whenever I give a speech, I always forget to talk about the accolades. And the accolades were, because of that battle, there was not one but 2 Medal of Honors that was actually awarded for that battle. Ron, my great medic, he got the, you know, in his defense, he was the only medic on this battle, and 8 Purple Hearts were awarded, which means 8 people were shot, blown up, or had injuries, and we're all alive. So he did a pretty dang good job under fire, under
And
pressure.
no casualties, right?
Well, the casualty, no KIAs.
Okay.
So I would be considered a casualty, but not a KIA, a killed
Gotcha.
in action, right? So, right, no killed in action. And so Ron was awarded the Medal of Honor. Matt Williams, our 18 Bravo, was literally charging the mountain up and down to help get people in and out of there in harm's way, right? He was awarded the Medal of Honor. The Air Force Combat Controller was awarded the Air Force Cross, which is the second high award. There was 8 of us that was awarded the Silver Star, and we won. Yeah, that's the accolade I always like to give.
So before we jump into kind of the next evolution of your existence, I have to ask, who's going to play you in the movie?
I don't know. You better be good looking though, right?
You got such a baby face. It's
I
gonna,
know,
like,
yeah.
I'm kind of thinking Josh Hartnett.
He'd be a good one. He's a little old now, wouldn't he be?
Yeah, you can do anything with CGI.
Yeah, that's right. Superman, he'd be a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I got the little curl. I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Henry Cavill. Well,
Yeah.
He's British, you know.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, but I
can-
think
yeah. He can't play John Wayne.
it's
Yeah.
that's true.
Who's John Wayne's grandson? Is he alive?
There we go.
It was Tommy Gunn,
Yeah, Tommy Gunn.
the boxer,
Yeah.
and I think
Was it really?
Tommy Gunn was John Wayne's grandson.
Wow.
And I thought he just passed away from HIV or AIDS at some point.
Wow.
He lost his pro card for that. Remember, because he was big in Rocky V.
I remember that now.
Yeah.
After Rocky V, he lost it, right?
Yeah.
Yep, I
Because he
remember
was a
that.
pro fighter, lost his pro card for AIDS, and then I think he passed away recently. So we're gonna have to find someone else.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we'll work on that, guys. Give us your suggestions on who should play that. Just drop those in
Patton
the.
Oswalt would be a good one. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. So you.
Go ahead and let that sink in.
Yeah, that took us. Wow. I like pause for dramatic effect.
Yeah.
So you lose the leg, you get the prosthesis, you come back, and now you've got this next evolution of your existence. So where
Right.
do you go from that to, you know, how do you come back to a life where everything that you knew prior to going to Afghanistan has changed?
Changed. And to pick up on the C word, can't. That's the word I learned April 6, 2008, or 7th, when I woke up in Bagram Air Force Base staring up at ceiling tiles in this hospital bed. I can't walk, right? You know, we got all these motivational coaches, there's no such thing as can't, bull crap. No matter how much effort, because I knew as a 27-year-old Green Beret before then that I can do anything I put my mind to, because I'll put the effort that's involved to get me there, right? Whether it's a ballerina or whether it's being a Green Beret, you know. Now, no matter how much effort I give, no matter how many push-ups I do, no matter what I do, I can't walk for the rest of my life. not without the aid of a prosthetic device. And that was one of the most humbling, humiliating, debilitating, mentally, lessons that I have ever had to learn. And because of that, it's made me the best man that I've ever could be. It really has. I always say that losing my leg is one of the best things that's ever happened to me.
We talked about this in the garage when we were getting ready to fire, and our good friend Drew kind of talks a lot about this, but your mess becomes your message.
Mess becomes your message.
Absolutely.
So now that you've gone through this, what is your message?
You owe it to the fallen to live well. Definitely is my message when it comes to veterans and the post-traumatic stress problems that we have and the 22 vets that we lose every single day.
Can we talk a little bit about that? Because there's a lot of people who either, this is one of those topics that doesn't get the attention that it deserves, and either it comes up in a news feed and people scroll past that news article, but let's talk about the 22 and really what that number means.
Yeah, so obviously that's not a specific name, because I've heard some people kind of sharpshoot, well, in this case it says 21 or there's more. That's the branded message is that there's 22 which is around there. Some states report differently. Some because there's a pistol involved, it's more of a homicide. They don't even try to do it that way. So it's a problem, and it's a problem to deal with, and I've known what it's like to have either survivor's guilt or depression, right? Let's face it sucks being one-legged. Throw on their substance abuse problems, whether it be narcotics or alcohol, because I'm going to be straight honest with you. That was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Not becoming a Green Beret, it's getting sober. First of all, I have a very addictive personality. I don't like to shoot a little bit. I like to shoot far, right? I don't like to be good. I like to be great.
Yeah.
And which is great when it's becoming a Green Beret, when it's becoming something that's being positive.
Right.
But the military, look, you're hurt. They give you medicine to take that pain away. But let's put it. I like to give it and put things into perspective. You know what a Percocet is? We all know, right?
Yeah.
Do you actually know what medicine that is?
It's an opioid.
Do you know what it is, though?
It's like meth.
Exactly.
Meth.
Lesson to the viewers. If you're prescribed with medicine, go look at what actually you are taking. The Percocet's not a medicine. That is a marketing name that an agency said this will sell.
Oh, are you saying what's the molecule?
No. Yeah, that's just a branded name.
Yeah.
So what's inside a Percocet is 325 milligrams of acetaminophen. That's Tylenol.
Yeah, which
And
daily is horrible for your liver.
Right. And then Oxycontin. That's the opioid that we have, right? 5 milligrams of Oxycontin. So it's 325 and 5. They were giving me 80 milligrams of straight Oxy 3 times a day.
Holy cow.
This is not inside a hospital. This is an outpatient going to Outback Steakhouse, going to, the mall or whatever. And, and I'm a family man, so I had 2 kids before I got shot and 2 kids after I got shot. So suck that, Taliban. 2 more infidels. We don't die, we multiply. But that's what I had to deal with, and getting sober was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, and it overcame me. It was that devil. I remember looking at my watch thinking, well, I took, my one at 7:48, so that means I can take my next at 11:48, or reading the pill bottle and it says, oh, no more than 3 a day. Well, I'll just take 3 now and have a party. Right? Or if 3 is great, 7's got to be awesome, right? And you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And month after month after month of that's on top of the depression, on top of all the anti-psych meds and all the anti-inflammatory meds, there's your problem.
Yeah.
And that's why on top of, let's have a marriage issue, right? Let's have somebody get a Dear Johnny letter while deployed, now lose a leg, now on all that, right? So there's so many problems that these veterans have to deal with, to go with it, and you owe it to them to live well, right? There's 30 names that are embroidered on the center console of my truck of Green Berets and Navy SEALs that are dead, right? And I drank when they died, because that's what you're supposed to do. You owe it to the fallen, right? To pour one for the homies, toast to the fallen. And after one of my last guys died, I did what you're supposed to do. I drank, and I woke up the next day angry, said, you know what, bull crap. Enough, enough. If his life matters that much, well, I owe it to him to live well. And that's whenever, it wasn't about drinking, I wasn't excessive. I mean, don't get me wrong, I wasn't about, I wasn't above having a good Friday night or Saturday night.
Yeah.
But I never bought more than a 6-pack. I never bought more than 1 bottle, and I had maybe 1 or 2 whiskeys, no more than that. But I drank 5 to 6 days a week.
Yeah.
It was my right to have a beer. Well, it's also my right not to.
And your right to live well.
Absolutely, and that's what I started doing, living well. Wasn't about alcohol, and I started looking at myself saying, how do I live with a purpose? You know, be the, not, when I give a speech, I always say, stop being good, start being great. Because with me, I was good when I drank. Became a Green Beret, had a job, didn't beat my family, paid my bills. I was good. But getting that sober mind, that clear head, let me tell you something, it was the best gift that I've ever given myself, and I hope those out there give that, because it's the best thing I've ever done.
I want to talk a little bit more about this concept of living great and how you did that. Rewind is the 22 really represents 22 soldiers that are committing suicide every day, right? And a lot of these guys are coming back dealing with the same issues, dealing with opioid addiction, pain management, broken families, all of this. I understand that the military has a 67% divorce rate right now.
And special operations are a lot higher than that.
Yeah. So this is a system that's almost designed to create a broken home, and then you deal with all of that after being deployed. So you come back, you deal with, you go through all of this, you get sober, you recognize that it's up to you to live great. And this is an inspiring message to me, right? Because so many people get stuck in this, I just get by. I'm okay in a mediocre marriage. I'm okay in a mediocre job. I'll just work my 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and hope for retirement at some point. You've come back from the biggest shitstorm possible and turned your life around. How do you inspire people who, just your average American is like, yeah, all right, this is my life?
Well, that's what everybody used to tell me. Man, I sure do like beer. Like, well, I didn't quit because I liked it. I quit because I loved it. Right? I love to drink a beer. It's great. But and you do get in that rut of I'm good. Just because you're good doesn't mean it's so. That's the end of life, right? Be great. And with me getting that sober head, that's what allowed me to become the first APT to graduate Green Beret Sniper School. Which, by the way, is not easy. It's not easy with 2 legs, much less doing that. Which is why I placed 4th place at the Boston Marathon, in a hand crank. That was one of those when I finished, I was happy, sad, mad. I'm like, yay, I did 4th. And I'm like, dang it, I should have trained. I'd have got it first, right? I didn't know I could do that, right? My joke is I can't be a fat one-legged guy, so I kept riding the hand crank, and then they said, hey, do you want to go do the marathon? I'm like, yeah, sure. Can my family go? And free trip, I'll go do that.
Yeah.
But I did that, and that's why, my first job outside of the military, was Five Toes Custom, where I started a company that was a place where veterans can come. After doing that, I was lucky enough to build it up. I sold it, and I have a logistics company called Gallantry Global Logistics. On the back of my silver star says for Gallantry in Action. So I have a logistics company that is service disabled veteran owned, and we're going to hire as many vets as we can, and then and then Live to Give, which is every bottle you buy, we give half the profits of veteran and first responder charities. Like that's living with purpose. That's what being great. So I'm not just a good husband, but I'm a loving husband, right? I'm an involved father, not just a father. I don't come home, sit on the couch and watch Sports Center or Fox News or whatever it is, or go to my garage, open a beer and work on the truck. I look at my wife and say, hey, how was your day? I ask my kids, hey, who'd you help today? You better say mom, right? Like whenever I get that call, because look, in the military, they teach you how to deal death, but not deal with it. I can look at you in the whites of the eyes, pull that trigger and sleep well at night. I can't get that call that Ryan Savard's dead, that Willie's Lover's dead, that Aaron Bellagio's dead, that Chris Kyle's dead, that all these people that you knew and loved are no longer with you. I didn't know how to deal with that. And that's why I had to drink, right? Well, now I take my kids to the movies. I take my wife to dinner. I live well for them. I do something that is great. And
Celebrating life.
Yes, you celebrate, because I guarantee you, those that are no longer here want us to do that.
Yeah,
That's why Memorial Day, you should have a great day. Yes, it's a somber day of remembrance, but they want you to go have a great time in remembrance of them. And that purpose, living that way, that's what makes life great.
Go ahead. It's like I'm getting emotional on this one.
Gosh, it's like there's just so much that has happened, and I know we always love hearing these stories. I know our listeners love hearing these as well, because it's so inspiring, because then people can look at their own life, be like, man, why the fuck am I complaining?
Right.
Like, why, come on.
Hey, here, news alert. Life sucks.
Yeah.
Life sucks if you're two-legged. Life sucks if you're one-legged. Life sucks if you're a billionaire. Life sucks if you're on welfare.
Yeah.
Life sucks. So we can either accept that life sucks, that everybody's got their own damn problems, and let's get over it.
Right.
Right?
Well, we talk a lot about this, but the Constitution, probably one of the greatest, literary pieces ever written. But I think that the challenge that it faces now is that we've taken the pursuit of happiness too far. It's everything's this pursuit of happiness. It's the next, and we've forgotten what it's like to embrace the suck. And
That's a good point.
we talk a lot about this on another podcast of mine, but it's like after divorce, after you go through these problems, it's embrace the suck. My daughter talks about it all the time. She's like, I'm bored. Be bored, because then you get to appreciate the good times. It's like
That's the majority of our problems is our leisure.
Yeah.
You think a kid in Afghanistan cares about what bathroom he uses,
No.
right? Real talk, right? Do you think somebody in Syria cares if you say Mr. or Mrs. in front of your name?
Right.
No. They're worried about whether they're going to be able to make it home at night.
Yeah.
They're worried about where their next meal is going to come. That's
Yeah.
living. Like right now, we're not living. Whenever I was in Afghanistan and I'd get on that chopper and those wheels would come off the ground, I didn't know if I was going to be alive when they landed.
Right.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Now that's
It's
living.
perspective.
That's living. That's when you look at that sunset right there and you say that is God's miracle, right? And you cherish
That is pretty impressive.
It is incredible.
They do nice sunsets here in Texas.
Absolutely. Texas don't suck. Yeah.
And I love it how we're looking over the place where we just blew something up.
I know.
In
I'm not
Texas.
gonna lie. I impressed myself today.
One shot wonder too.
Yeah,
I know,
absolutely.
I'm proud.
John,
That's awesome.
we are almost out of time, but before we do, we always talk about calls to action, right? And the Live to Give water is something that I absolutely want our viewers to go check this out. It's on Amazon. You guys are online, right?
We're definitely online on Amazon. We're in a lot of different 7-Elevens and gyms actually here locally in the DFW Metroplex,
Okay.
But for all the national people, we
Guys, so 50% of net profits are donated to, right now it's veterans and first responders, but you guys are expanding on that to really talk about this kind of mission of those who serve.
serving those who serve. So I was a lead instructor for Chris Kyle's company whenever he was alive, and which I thought was awesome that, the Navy SEAL American sniper needed the Green Beret sniper to teach for him. I never let him forget that, by the way. But that was his motto was to serve those who serve us, and we've always, it's even on the bottle, is about serving those, whether it be, the teacher that's underpaid that needs help for school supplies, or the nurse that's running, double shift and needs help, that her house burnt down, or, anybody, Billy Bob kid that's going to Boy Scout camp, or someone that's really, whenever I give a speech, I always say there's 3 things I want you to get. The first one is stop being good, start being great. And the second thing is being a part of something bigger than yourself. Right? This selfie generation that we have, this Kardashian world, people forget, that it wasn't just soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines that won World War II. It was Americans. It was Americans that came together, first of all, and spent $18.3 billion buying war bonds so we can fund the war. Right now, what if Trump came on TV and said, hey, Little Rocket Man is talking trash, I needed you to buy bonds? Would that happen?
No, of course not.
People forget that, Rosie the Riveter, right? Do you think mom would turn off Kardashians and go build bombs and tanks and planes? People forget that Ford, Chevy, and Dodge stopped building cars. They started, more Willys Jeeps were built at a Ford plant than in a Willys plant, right? And news alert, they don't own Willys, right? That's being a part of something that's bigger than yourself, and that's what this is all about, right? Is serving those that are being a part of those that are, bigger than yourself. And the last thing that I always give when I give a speech is say, be worth it. Because whenever you say thank you to me, I don't say you're welcome. I say you're worth it. You're worth losing this leg. You're worth the holidays that I miss. You're worth that sacrifice. Because everybody's got to answer that question when you lay your head down, whether it's the military, whether it's this podcast, whether it's the things you do in life. When you lay it down, is all this stuff that I'm doing worth it, right? Well, the thank you that you get from me, you being the Americans, that bear hug that you've given me of thanks, that's that validation that says it's worth it. That's why now I am not just a citizen, but a successful one, right? It's because of that validation of Americans. Look, we're the best country that's ever happened. And it's not because this great sunset that's happened in the inner Texas or the Grand Canyon. It's because of these people that are on Mount Rushmore, right? It's the Americans, right? They came here from all different races, colors, creeds, religion to come live under one set of ideals, American. I love the fact that when the Olympics come on, they say, all right, an American's about to race, you don't know what color they are, right? I love that. I love it. I'm half Mexican. My mom's Betty Jo Huerta. Grandma didn't speak any English, right? I love the fact that I'm Mexican. You'll never hear me say I'm Mexican American. When I got shot, Mexico did nothing for me. I don't like the term Mexican American, African American, Indian American, Asian American. We are, and our identity should be American, right? And we should love that, embrace that we did, again, when we fought tyranny and shed blood to lose that tyranny 243 years ago, is to be American. And I just want to keep, that's what this bottle is about, is helping those that keep this this country great. Yeah. Sorry, I keep going long.
No. Look, it's
freedom
inspiring.
stream,
So,
and I love it.
I have to ask the typical life to the max question. If we could give you one wish in this world, what would it be?
Well, obviously to have 10 toes. Yeah, have my leg back. Yeah.
Well, duh.
Other than that,
you asked the one-legged guy. That's kind of a
other than
stupid
have-
question.
Be able to
now.
do calf raises again. Yeah. What's the one thing that if I wanted, I could have?
Yeah.
Man, that's a good one. To that, what we're just talking about, to make sure that we understand the values that made this country great and never forget it. To know that I don't care what color you are, I care how good a person you are. I don't care what God that you believe, but that you believe in Him, and that's your right. Not freedom from religion, right? Of religion. We can believe anything that we want. That's what I'd love.
That might be my favorite one so far.
That's a good one too.
Guys,
And the leg.
and the leg. Well, let's start with the leg.
Start
We'll
there.
give you two, since you lost the leg fighting for us, we'll give you two
Okay.
wishes.
Is it a genie where I get 3 wishes for all wishes?
No, and you can't wish for more wishes.
Yeah.
Genie
my
in the
choice.
live to give bottle.
Yeah.
Guys, the call to action on this one absolutely is live to give. Is it livetogive.com?
Yep.
Okay, check
We all
this
need
out.
to hydrate anyway.
Yeah. It's
So duh.
Look, and
absolutely.
here's
It's
the deal, right?
enhanced
Like-
water, reverse osmosis with electrolytes and minerals, add for
Yeah,
taste. You don't have to wear a uniform to serve. Like, that's what makes this so great, is that it gives everyday Americans the ability to give back daily.
Right.
And for
Right?
a $1.50, $2, which is still half the cost of your 600-calorie Frappuccino at Starbucks, you can actually participate in a cause that really is impactful. And so, life to the max, what you guys do at Live to Give, what you do, John, I think are so aligned, and that's why we couldn't have been more excited to have you on the podcast.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I don't take it lightly that you had me on here, and I mean that. So, by all means, thank y'all for having me.
And thank you for spending the day with us.
Absolutely.
Today was a
Hey,
blast,
you're
so
worth it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Wayne Walding. We will put all of his information in the show notes. Thank you so much. This has been another episode of Life to the Max podcast with your host,
Janna Breslin.
and Evan DeMarco. Make sure to follow us on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever platform you listen to your podcasts on. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.